Don't come to the Sunday get-together. My new wife says you'll make the whole party stink. That was my younger brother's text. I wish I could say it shocked me, but honestly, it didn't. What did sting was watching the notification light up with little red hearts for my mother, my father, even my aunt. They weren't horrified, they liked it. Hi everyone. My name is Clara Rowan. I'm 27 years old, and apparently my family thinks I smell bad enough to ruin a party. I stayed at the message for a full minute, thumb hovering over my phone. My first instinct was to defend myself, to call my brother, to demand an explanation. But then the calmer part of me, the part they taught to know her place, simply replied, "Understood." And then I set the phone down because deep down I already knew no matter what I did, I'd never be their version of enough. Not polished enough, not obedient enough, not the kind of woman who married into money like my brother did that night. I sat at my desk in my quiet apartment, the one I'd bought with my own savings, and looked at the framed photo of my parents smiling at my brother's wedding. I wasn't in it. They thought they'd humiliated me. They thought I'd disappear, cry, or beg. But what they didn't know was that my office, the one they'd all forgotten I owned, was about to become the stage for their greatest shock yet, the same office my brother was scheduled to visit the next morning with his brand new wife. And I was ready. Sunday morning arrived like any other, but I dressed with precision. A tailored navy suit, soft cream blouse, gold earrings. Calm, composed, unbothered. At exactly 10:15 a.m., the elevator doors opened in my building's marble lobby. My assistant, Jamie, texted, "They're here." I smiled. Perfect timing. My brother, Ethan, walked in first, hand in hand with his new wife, Sabrina. She looked every bit but the picture of smug luxury, diamond earrings, a sharp perfume that entered before she did, and a tone that could slice glass. But when her eyes landed on me behind the glass wall of my corner office, she stopped mid-step. You work here," she stammered. I stood, closing my laptop with deliberate calm. "No, Sabrina, I don't work here. I own this place." Ethan blinked like he'd misheard. "Wait, what?" "Welcome to Rowan Strategies, your new corporate PR firm," I said, extending my hand. "That I believe your company, Sabrina Lux Interiors, signed a 3-year brand management contract with us last quarter." Jamie appeared beside me with a clipboard. "Would you like coffee, Miss Rowan?" Sabrina's face drained of color. Ethan's smirk vanished. "I thought your sister was in marketing," he muttered. "Close," I replied smoothly. "That I run a national PR agency. Your wife's company is one of my smaller clients." Sabrina's jaw tightened. "You should have told me." Ethan turned red. "You told me she didn't have a career." I smiled faintly, gesturing toward the conference room. "Shall we begin meeting? We're billing by the hour." That was the moment she screamed, not out of anger, but from realization that because for the first time she saw exactly who she'd insulted. Sabrina's voice echoed through the glass. "You can't be serious. You're her client." Her assistant froze mid-note, unsure whether to apologize or vanish. My staff tried not to react, but I caught the subtle smiles. They'd all seen the text I'd received the night before. That IT had become the silent fuel for today's victory. I took my seat at the head of the table, the same one where major clients once tried to dismiss me for being too young. Now, the same authority that once intimidated me sat comfortably on my shoulders. Ethan fumbled to recover. "Clara, we didn't mean don't." I interrupted softly. "Let's keep this professional." That he fell silent immediately. That was new. I turned my attention to Sabrina, who sat stiffly, arms crossed, pride cracking like thin glass. "Your brand's recent backlash over unpaid vendors is trending online," I began. "Our job is to clean that up efficiently." Her eyes widened. "You knew about that?" "Of course," I said calmly. "It's my job to know what's hidden beneath polished surfaces." The irony hung thick in the air. For every time my mother told me to know my place, for every family dinner I wasn't invited to, this moment restored something deeper than revenge. Dignity. When the meeting ended, Sabrina didn't make eye contact. Ethan hesitated at the door. Clara, are you coming to dinner tonight? I met his gaze that I wasn't invited. Remember? And before he could respond, I added, but maybe next time you'll text the client before mocking her in the group chat. His face drained of color as the door closed behind them. That evening, I returned home to silence, the kind that felt earned. My phone buzzed nonstop, though. Missed calls from Ethan, 2 half-hearted, hey sis texts, and a long message from Mom. Your brother says there's been a misunderstanding. You know how his wife is emotional, not malicious. Please come to dinner tonight. It's family. Family. The same word they'd used when they excluded me, when they laughed at me. Still, curiosity won. I decided to go, not for reconciliation, but to see how quickly people rewrite history when they realize you're powerful. At exactly 7:45, I arrived at my parents' house, the same one where I'd once been told, you'll never be successful if you keep being stubborn. Sabrina opened the door, her smile too wide to be sincere. Clara, so glad you could make it. Her voice trembled slightly. I could almost hear the unspoken panic. We need her now. Dinner was awkward from the first bite. Dad tried to act casual. So business is good, huh? Busy, I replied, cutting my steak slowly. Your son's company's campaign goes live next week. Sabrina nearly choked on her wine. Wait, what? I looked at Ethan. You didn't tell her? My firm manages the PR for your construction merger. It's one of our biggest accounts. The silence was delicious. Mom forced a laugh. Well, I always knew you'd do great things, sweetheart. Did you? I said softly, because I remember being told I'd never make it out of marketing school. No one spoke after that. The same family that once mocked me now sat frozen at my table, or rather mine now, since I was the one they'd all indirectly depended on, and they were just beginning to realize it. The next morning, I was back in my office early, focused, centered, and finally in control. Jamie walked in holding an envelope. This came by courier. From your parents. I opened it slowly. Inside was a formal request. My father asking me to delay the merger announcement because Ethan's investors had concerns. The note ended with, do it for the family. You owe us that much. Owe them. I stared at the paper until my hands trembled, not with anger, but with an old, familiar ache. The same one from years of being belittled, dismissed, and replaced by better children. Jamie spoke carefully. Do you want me to forward this to legal? I nodded and scheduled a meeting with the press for Thursday. We're announcing as planned. When Ethan stormed into my office an hour later, his charm was gone. Are you insane? I asked you to help me. No, Ethan, I said calmly. You demanded it, he scoffed. You think running a company makes you powerful. We family, Clara. That still means something. I met his glare with the kind of calm only pain can teach that it used to before you decided your wife's comfort mattered more than your sister's dignity. He froze. Sabrina appeared behind him, pale and wide-eyed. Ethan, let's just go. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. I'm not trying to destroy you. I'm teaching you what respect feels like. The kind you can't buy or fake. That he looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time, because for the first time, he finally was. And the woman standing before him wasn't the sister he'd mocked. She was the CEO he couldn't afford to offend. By Thursday, the press conference was everywhere. Headlines read, Rowan Strategist secures $12 million construction partnership led by CEO Clara Rowan. My brother's face, frozen behind a forced smile in the photos, said everything. He hadn't realized that the merger deal, the one his investors were betting on, only existed because of my company's strategy. Without me, the entire plan would have collapsed months ago. That evening, Mom called Clara. What you're doing is cruel. You're embarrassing your brother publicly. Mom, I said evenly. You applauded when he humiliated me in a group chat. I didn't humiliate him. I just stopped hiding who I am. Her tone hardened. You've changed. I had to. You wouldn't have survived being the family joke for as long as I did. Silence stretched between us. Then she whispered, Your father's heart can't take this kind of stress. He didn't seem too fragile when he laughed at me last week. I replied, but don't worry, the mojo stays. Business is business. The next day, Sabrina showed up at my office, makeup smudged, her arrogance gone. I didn't know, she said quietly. Ethan told me you were some bitter sister who never got over being single. I didn't know you built this. I studied how carefully. And what would you have done if you did? I wouldn't have texted that. I smiled faintly. Then consider this your lesson. Words carry weight. Sometimes they cost more than you expect. When she left, my reflection in the glass wall stared back, calm, unshaken, and finally respected. For once, the silence that followed felt deserved. The next Sunday, the same family group chat lit up again. Mom, family dinner at 7. Everyone better be there. Dad reacted with a thumbs up. Ethan sent, of course. Then a pause. Finally, Clara. I typed one word, busy, and hit send. By 7:05, I was at the rooftop of the Rowan Tower, my building, sipping tea while my staff worked quietly around me. Down below, I could almost imagine my family pretending everything was normal. At 7:48, Jamie approached with a smile. You'll want to see this. She handed me her tablet, a live post from a local journalist. Breaking Rowan strategist named Businesswoman of the Year by the Denver Business Council. The photo was me calm, confident, standing in front of the same company they all thought was my little marketing job. My phone buzzed instantly. Dad, we're proud of you. Mom, you should have told us. Sweetheart. Ethan, you made us look bad. I stayed at their messages, the same pattern repeating. Pride only when my success benefited their image. Jamie raised a brow. You going to reply? I smiled, setting the phone face down. No, let them sit in it. Because power wasn't about shouting anymore. It was about choosing silence and knowing they finally understood what that silence meant. That night, I looked out at the city lights. My city, my name glowing on a skyline they'd once said I'd never reach. For the first time, I didn't crave their approval. I already had something better. Peace. A month later, I was standing at a charity gala speaking on stage about entrepreneurship and resilience. Cameras flashed, people applauded, and among the crowd, I spotted 3 familiar faces near the back. My parents and Ethan. They looked smaller now, not physically, but in presence. The same people who once made me feel like nothing were now shifting uncomfortably under my success. After the event, my mother approached first. Clara, your speech was beautiful, she said softly. We've been wrong about a lot of things. My father nodded stiffly that you've done well for yourself. I smiled politely. Thank you. I did what you taught me. I stopped depending on anyone but myself. Ethan stood last, hands shoved in his pockets. Sabrina wants to apologize. She said she shouldn't have said what she did. I know, I said gently. That's why I didn't ruin her company when I could have. He blinked, you mean? I leaned in slightly. Let's just say your next few contracts came through because I decided not to block them. He looked at me differently then, not as a sister to mock, but as a woman he'd underestimated. I started to walk away, then turned back. Ethan, do you remember that text? The one where you said I'd make the party stink. He looked ashamed. Yeah. I smiled calmly. Turns out success smells a lot like clean air. The kind you only breathe when you rise above the ones who tried to choke you. As I left the ballroom, applause echoed behind me. But it wasn't the sound that stayed with me. It was the silence that followed. The silence of power.